Our resident lawyer, Despina Priala of boutique law firm Priala Legal in Runaway Bay, is with us every Thursday to offer her legal expertise by providing some general advice on the latest hot topics. Of course, having experience spanning more than 25 years in the area of property and commercial law. She joins us now. Good morning, Despina.
Good morning, Brooke. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Despina. Good to have you with us as always.
Thank you. I always love doing the show with you guys, so it's great to be here.
Fabulous. And today's going to be a good one because we are talking about buying property, do's and don'ts. This segment will be about the do's, the good stuff we should be doing. So I know one big point is obviously research. So what is it we can do as buyers, sellers to get the ball rolling?
Yes. So when we see clients, they come to us at different stages. It's either going to be after they've signed a contract, which we don't prefer. That's one of the points about vetting contracts beforehand. But also they come to us beforehand. And we like to empower our clients and give them as much information as possible to allow them to make informed decisions. And that is a very important point for them. So we give clients information to do their own research about the property. And a lot of buyers do. I mean, buyers are very savvy these days. They're a lot more savvy than what they used to be. And I think that's got a lot to do with the advancement in technology. So buyers can actually go on a number of websites to look at the property and to scope it out. So naturally, they probably found the property, first of all, on realestate.com or domain.com. So they're relying on information on that particular website. If they're able to look at the property physically, that's always good as well, because pictures sometimes don't tell exactly what's going on with the property. So that's important. And if not, they should get someone to actually have a look at the property for them if they're not able to do that physically. So having a look at Google Maps is another one. It's really important, I think, for people who can't be there physically to have a look at the property from an aerial point of view as well, because you can find out a lot of things about the property just by looking at that aerial view in terms of, whether the land's flat, whether it's sloping, where it's positioned, anything surrounding the land that might be of significance for a buyer to know about. So that's always important. The other thing that buyers should be looking at is, when they do their research and homework, is to look at local council's website. So local council, for example, on the Gold Coast, we have the Gold Coast City Council website. It's a fabulous website. And on there, you can actually go and find a lot of information about your property. It's all free. And you can go on there and have a look to get information under property inquiry. And you can download a ton of information about the property that you're looking at. And people are often not aware of that. So they can do that first of all and have a look at that information. It's really important.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I feel like Northern Rivers also have some great council websites with a ton of information. It's a very good point. And in terms of contracts, so I know 30, the number 30 is a golden number. We want at least 30 days to sign this contract. Why 30?
Well, because basically 30's always been the typical number, because you really need 30 days. And unless you are a cashed up buyer 100%, and you've already done your research significantly and you've scoped it out really well, you've done your due diligence, I suppose you could settle in 21 days. We don't see it very often these days. But we need 30 days because most buyers want the contract subject to getting a pest and building report, which takes time. Then they'll need it subject to finance, which is a huge condition that has to be obtained and satisfied. Now, these days, the banks, we've seen a lot of changes with the banks. The banks need at least 14 days, usually 21 days, to be able to talk to a borrower, put their application through, review it, and give that buyer, hopefully, their finance approval. So it is taking the banks longer to get that finance approval issued for a variety of reasons. So 30 days is really the minimum, because once you get your finance approval, the most significant thing to remember is you need at least that 14 days after that period to be able to settle, because we do a lot of things in that period for buyers.
Processing time. That's what we
Yes.
need. Yeah.
Yes,
Got you.
exactly.
And in terms of the bank, so what issues do buyers and sellers run into if they contact the bank late, if they leave it last minute?
Nightmare issues.
Complete nightmare.
We see it a lot. So if you are looking for property, you're going out there, you're driving around, or you're going online and you're looking, if you can contact your bank first of all and say, am I pre-approved for a certain sum? That's great. So then you know what you're looking for within your budget. Okay. So then once you do find a property, get in touch with your bank manager or broker, whoever you use, and say, yep, this is the property, found it. Let's get the ball rolling. I've signed a contract. So immediately a contract is signed, get that contract to your broker or your banker straight away, because without that contract, they can't do anything much for you. So there's no point leaving it for a few days or a week or going on holidays, which we've had some clients do, and that's very difficult. And they come back and go, oh, yeah, well, I've given you everything. Well, you didn't and you haven't, and now it's pushed back. And the reason why all this is significant is a lot of buyers and sellers may not realise is when you're under contract, you are subjected to timeframes. Yeah. So you've got conditions that are due. They're due by a particular date. And it is significant. People shouldn't take that for granted or be too casual about it, because if you have a finance due on a particular date or another condition due on a particular date, it's usually due by 5 p.m. on that date, if it's specified in the contract. And if you don't meet that condition by that date, the other party, being the seller, in this case, if you're a buyer, they can actually do a number of things. One, they can terminate the contract from under you, and that's a surprise because you might have injected already a lot of time, money, energy, thinking, oh, well, the seller will give me a couple more days to sort it out. Well, actually, they don't. They don't have to do that. They can just know, well, you haven't given me an answer by the due date, and then I'm going to terminate the contract because guess what? I've probably got 3 buyers lined up anyway. So don't be too casual about that. So under the do's, what we're talking about, stick to the time frames. Do things early. Do your homework and make sure you liaise with all the relevant parties very early on.
Despina, generally speaking, buying and selling property, is it a smooth process, generally speaking, on the Gold Coast?
Well, it's a hard question to answer, Steve, because it should be, in theory, it should be, but it's not. It's not, because you're dealing with a variety of parties and you're dealing with issues that might come up that are unforeseen with the property, and that happens often.
And probably more so now because there's going to be a huge building boom again.
Well, that's right. That's right. So people are going to be super busy. The banks are going to be overloaded, and you need to do things early to be able to have your purchase or sale run as smoothly as possible. Okay. And we as property lawyers, look, we understand that. So we get ready very early when we look after a contract from the beginning to the end. If you leave it all to the last minute on the last day or the day before, it's an absolute nightmare, I can assure you. So the clients have to take on that responsibility too.
So if there's no communication, can you advise people to change firms?
Well, exactly. So if you're using another law firm or whoever's you're using in that particular firm, whether it's a conveyancer or a lawyer, hopefully it's a lawyer, then if they're not communicating with you, if they're not telling you what's happening, right, then that's a red flag. If you have to push them for a response, if you're not getting those answers to those emails or phone calls you're making, then it's a red flag to say, you know what, I don't know what's happening. The firm's not communicating with me. This is terrible. I'm going to pull it and give it to someone else. And that can be done.
Yes.
So people don't like to change halfway. And, it can be probably put a couple of days delay on the matter. But in the overall scheme of things, you might get a better result or a better outcome in the end. Because if the firm is indicating from the beginning a lack of communication, what do you think is going to happen in the lead up to settlement? So, and that is the most significant part to be able to settle. Because if you don't settle in the right way, on time, with everything required of you, you'll be in default potentially. And
Yes.
that is a massive consequence.
Being fair and being honest.
Yes, that's right.
Talking with Despina Priala from Priala Legal in Runaway Bay, the do's and don'ts of buying and selling property. The don'ts of buying and selling property, next.